Oh, okay. It's time to talk about Arch Manning. He commits to Texas, and I I've got a lot of thoughts on this, but I do want to say this. We can poke fun at Texas, right? They went 5-7 last year. They lost to Kansas last year. That's embarrassing. There's no doubt. They should be made fun of for that. They've gone, I think I read 70-55 in the last 10 seasons, which is, I mean, honestly, it's just hard to believe. They haven't won a single Big 12 championship in the last decade. Not one. That all being said, Arch Manning going to Texas is a really big deal. It is. And it's okay for us to acknowledge that it's a big deal. It's okay for us to acknowledge that he's a really talented player. I've talked to a lot of guys that work at Rivals, 24/7 Sports, and they've said that On3, like all of those places. They said if Manning wasn't his last name, he'd still be a top 10 player. Like he's a really talented kid. And we can make jokes about it and say, oh, Texas is back because of Arch, but this is significant for Steve Sarkisian. It's really big for him, and it's okay for us to acknowledge that that's the case. Doesn't mean that OU's not going to whoop his ass, but I saw some people acting like, oh, this isn't really that big of a deal. Texas is going to continue to stink. Maybe they do, but they got the number one player in the country, and his last name's Manning. It's a big win for Steve Sarkisian and Texas football. It's okay to acknowledge that. I don't have any problem acknowledging that. But the issue for Texas, it hasn't been collecting talent. It's been developing that talent. But you and I have talked a lot about this, Ted. Their big glaring issue, probably the biggest difference between OU and Texas over these last 10 years has been the level of quarterback play. And the fact that they're getting Arch Manning, that's not insignificant. The kid could play, and I would anticipate him being a really good college player. He's the number one player in the country for a reason.
Yeah, I think it is a big deal for Texas. Here's the first reason, and we've seen this before at OU. When you land a top quarterback, that usually has a massive impact on the rest of that recruiting class. You know, offensive guys particularly, but even defensive players want to be a part of like a historic signing class, right? And Arch Manning, the last name, there's going to be a lot of players that want to sign with Texas because of this. It's going to generate a lot of excitement there. Now, football wise, I think it's interesting. Number one, I think it's interesting that Arch Manning chose Texas with the likes of Alabama and Georgia wanting you, and you could easily go there. You go to Texas. The only thing I can think of is it's the low pressure move. It's a place where you can go, and if it doesn't go well, you can blame it on the school. You can't blame it on Alabama if it doesn't go well when you're there. Can't blame it on Saban. Kind of the same thing with Georgia right now. So I felt like it was kind of a low pressure because they just went 5-7. Like it just doesn't really add up. I'm curious to see what it does with their starting quarterback right now. If it's Quinn Ewers, like what's the mindset for a guy like that? You know, you're being talked about, you're being pumped up as a guy that's going to go in, take that spot, take this offense to the next level. Now, all of a sudden, you're yesterday's news, and this kid that's about to be a senior in high school is going to be what everyone's talking about for an entire year. And every time you make a mistake, and every time you know, and you're just going to be a freshman, you're taking your first snaps, like everything that you do is going to be looked at through the lens of, well, Manning won't do that, or, you know, he won't be able to beat Manning out if he continues this. So I think it's going to put a ton of pressure on Quinn Ewers. As far as Arch Manning, I think he's a really good quarterback. But I think most people are assuming he's way better than what he is. No doubt good. 5-star talent. Okay. Yeah. But some places have him rated as one of the top recruits of all time. No. Sorry. Not it. He is not a once in a generation type of quarterback. He's not. A lot of a bunch of guys in the recruiting game don't even think he's the best quarterback in his class. Now, I don't know any of that. I've seen just, some of the highlight stuff that's out there, and I think he's really good. And I think he has a chance to do some really good things at Texas. But he's not, I don't think he's going to be like a Vince Young type of guy that's going to come in, put the entire world on his back and go win you a championship. Just a little bit different style of a player. But there's no doubt that this is a big move for Texas. And for Sarkisian, it's huge. But guess what? The pressure's on, man. The pressure's on. When you got a Manning sitting in the locker room, it's not going to be his fault. It's going to be yours.
Yeah. The pressure is on, but in a weird way, I also think it gives him a lot of job security. Right?
Yeah.
He's going to be there for at least 3 more years. Right? I mean, because they're not going to want to get rid of Sark if that means they could possibly lose Arch Manning. Right? And I know AJ Milwee, the quarterback coach there, has been given a lot of credit. They're like, I don't think Milwee's going anywhere either. So those guys, I really think they may have bought themselves more time, even if they continue to struggle, because like, no. Arch is coming. Once he's here, a year or two, we're going to have this thing rolling.
Wait until Saban hires Milwee as the offensive coordinator this coming off season.
Yeah, that would be a very Saban-like move. But I will say, I get what you're saying about the like once in a generation type player. I didn't feel that way about Quinn Ewers either. When I think once in a generation type quarterback, like you have to have a certain physical profile. Like basically you got to look like Cam Newton, Vince Young, a guy like Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
Right. You got to look like one of those guys.
But those are the guys he's listed with.
Right. And he does, while he's a good athlete. I think he's a better an athlete than some people realize. I think some people think he's like Eli or like Peyton, and he got a little more giddy up than that. But I do think that the Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning situation is interesting because we just went through it at OU. We just saw this exact same movie. Now, maybe, now Caleb Williams' last name wasn't Manning, but the kid had an incredible amount of hype around him, right? Number 1 quarterback in the class, the whole thing. And we all thought, hey, this thing's going to go perfectly according to plan. Spencer Rattler, he's going to play great. Then he's going to go to the draft. And then Caleb Williams is going to take over and not going to skip a beat. And this thing's going to be perfect. We're going to keep on rolling. And you're hearing this from Texas fans. Like, hey, Quinn's going to start this year. He's going to get better. Then next year, he'll play 1 year. Arch can sit and learn and redshirt, get stronger and all that. And then he'll go to the draft and Arch will take over. It'll all be perfect. Very rarely does it work out like that, Ted. We just had a front row seat to where it didn't work out like that at all.
I know. I'll tell you exactly what happens. Quinn Ewers has a solid first year, and Arch Manning's an early arrival. In that UT spring game, buddy, he just lights it up, right? And there's a buzz out there, man. This Manning kid, and the first sign of mistake from Quinn Ewers in that season, everyone's going to start the murmurs up in the stands. Yeah, we've seen it before.
I'll say this. I really wish Arch Manning wasn't going to Texas. I know some people are like, oh, he's going to stink once he gets there. I don't think he is. And you mentioned his ability, like the domino effect of this.
Mm-hmm. They have a good offense too. Like their system is good.
Their system's good, and they've got the best skill talent going into this season if they can stay healthy. They just do. I've got that. It's just the truth. But I'm a little worried that Texas might be becoming cool, right? Texas has been a punchline for a long time now. And this kind of makes him look cool. And Arch Manning could have gone anywhere. I mean, he doesn't need NIL money, and none of that stuff. Like, that clearly was not a big deal. Like, they kept this recruitment so quiet, and the fact that he ended up at Texas, like, that gives Steve Sarkisian a lot of ammo on the recruiting trail. And I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. From an OU perspective, don't like it one bit.
Well, I do like it from the perspective of, I think it's going to make Texas better. And I think when Texas is better, Oklahoma's better. And that rivalry is, everyone's going to want to watch Arch Manning against Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. That game is going to be,
it's going to be so sweet.
It's going to be awesome. So I like it from that end of the spectrum. I've never really worried about Texas being good. And maybe it's just the fact that, it's been so long since they have been, that I've settled into this kind of comfort zone. But I honestly believe that the better our surroundings are, the better the teams that we're playing against, the better we become.
Yeah, I'm with you. Listen, it's going to be so fun. I mean, those 3 to 4 years, whatever he ends up, Arch Manning starting against OU in the Cotton Bowl. I mean, are you kidding me?
Crazy.
And we're going to get to cover it and talk about it. Yeah. So while I'm not thrilled, the content, Ted, the content.
It's going to be the best. Eli Manning out there, corn dog mustard all over his shirt. It's going to be great.
Cooper.
Fantastic.
A lot of people forget that Cooper's actually his dad. I feel like
I feel bad for him.
I feel bad for Cooper. Like, he had I want to say it was like a neck injury or something. I think
he's like the most athletic one of all of them, right?
Right. Yeah, he was a wide receiver. But all the articles, it's like Arch Manning, nephew of Peyton and Eli. Like, every single one of them. I'm just like, oh, come on, man. Give Cooper some love. Yeah, but hey, Arch Manning's going to Texas. That'll be a lot of fun. It should be a lot of fun.